Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. It is the football review show. We're going to be looking back at both of the All-Ireland Club football semi-finals. We're going to be looking back on Errigal Ciaran's big win versus Dr. Crokes in what was definitively the game of the weekend, and certainly a game that everybody very much enjoyed. Everybody speaking about, cracking game of Gaelic football. Hugely enjoyed it, in fairness. And then, of course, with a brilliant game, with a fantastic game, it just had to be the next game that unfortunately wasn't that good. And that was Cuala versus Coolera Strand Hill. Cuala did book their place in the final, as did Errigal Ciaran, so it will be a Dublin club versus a Tyrone club in the final, which will be very interesting. Joined by Seamus Brady from Moncliha to review both of the games in detail and discuss them. Seamus, I suppose, as far as All-Ireland Club football semi-finals go, what were your thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag. Thanks for having me on again, Aaron. The first game, you're right, on the Saturday between Errigal Ciaran and Dr. Crokes was a marvellous game of Gaelic football. And I've seen a lot of people talking about it online. And obviously we have the new rules coming in from the Football Review Committee from the start of the Allianz Leagues on. And a lot of people have kind of described that game as somewhat being like a parting gift from the old Gaelic football. And now the new Gaelic football is obviously going to take over with the new rules and everything like that. And you are right. Like the semi-final the next day was a little bit of a reminder of what we have usually got over the past few years. Like, I mean, the stark statistic, I had obviously Matthew on my show there last night, and myself and himself were discussing the one stat which blew both of us away, which was in the first half of that game, Coolera had 71% of the ball and Cuala had 29% of the ball, yet Cuala went in at half time 6 points to 2 ahead. Like, absolutely shocking statistic. And a lot of people were saying online that it was one of the biggest examples that we've seen anyway, definitely in the last few years, of how possession just means nothing, especially in a modern game if you do nothing with it. I thought the first game on Saturday was absolutely brilliant. Genuinely heart-stopping stuff going down the final few moments. When Michal Burns kicked that point right at the death in normal time, I thought that Crokes might be on their way. But then obviously Peter Ogue steps up again for Errigal Ciaran, not just once in the Ulster final, but he does it again in the All-Ireland semi-final right at the death. So it's extraordinary, the neck on this guy, like the bottle that he has to take those shots on is unbelievable. And then extra time, O'Goose's goal was just magnificent. And looking forward to dissecting both the games now in more depth.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there was plenty of talking points, obviously, from. And anyone who's tuning in, let us know your comments on both of the games. Let us know your thoughts on both matches, and make sure to be hitting the like button, subscribing, all that stuff as well. It was interesting, wasn't it? Because it felt like anyone who was against the new rules, where, when the Errigal Ciaran and Crokes game, they were like, see, we don't need to change Gaelic football. Everything's great about the sport. Everything, you see a game like that and you're like, why is there a need to change everything? And then, of course, with that, there then had to be a game, the next game just had to then literally, make us want to absolutely pull the hair out of our head. To be honest. So, I mean, it
was Aaron, is like that game, while it wasn't necessarily the best game to watch, it didn't even jump out to me as being a particularly bad game of Gaelic football. Like, it kind of stood out to me as being bang average in terms of what we've usually been given over the last few years, which I think is even more of an indication of how things needed to change.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you remember, like, for example, the Derry-Kerry All-Ireland quarter-final, where you went onto Twitter and, like, the whole of Twitter was like, this is absolute poison to watch. I can't believe this is so bad. All this stuff. There were games like that over the past couple of years where everybody was like, wow, this is terrible. That game wasn't getting hit with the same rap. And it did have some entertaining periods, like when Coolera hit the 5 points in a row to bring it back to a 2-point game.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, it was an okay game by the standards of what we're used to. And I think especially with the new rules, the FRC rules, like there's going to be very few of them. And I went on a big rant yesterday on my weekend review. I was like, good riddance to possession football, because I've hated it from the get-go, and be glad to see the back of it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, in terms of games of Gaelic football, like the first half was up there, one of the worst first half matches I think I've ever seen. But I do think after that, it definitely did get a lot better. The second half, the game didn't open up. And to be fair to Coolera Strandhill, they didn't like they changed it up in the second half, and they did go for it, which I think made the game a little bit better and kind of opened it up a little bit more. Podrick says Con could have pre-club All Ireland if there's a lot of very similar looking names there. If Cuala wins Sunday, some achievement. In fairness, yeah, I mean, we're not going to preview the All Ireland Club final as such in this podcast, but I mean, yeah, I mean, in terms of Con O'Callaghan, like if he wins on Sunday, has he completed Gaelic football, or has he completed, the GAA? Because like he's won, he's won what, the 6 in a row. He's won the 6 in a row. How many All Irelands has he won with Dublin? He's won what, 6, 7? I think he's won 7, has he? Or is it 8?
I think he came in. He definitely burst onto the scene in 2017. That was when he started. I wouldn't know for sure if he was in the panel in 2016. Was he in the panel? I think he was in the panel in 2016. But 2017 was when he started games and won the Young Footballer of the Year. So from 2016 on, that's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 5, and then the 23rd. Yes, so 6 All-Ireland titles. Then he has the 2 with Cuala in the hurling. If he wins this one, the only one left to do, jump to the hurlers for Dublin and try drag them to an All-Ireland title. Definitely wouldn't be opposed to seeing him tog out for the Dublin hurlers. I mean, at this stage, half the Dublin footballers are gone anyway, so.
Yeah, just looking on his old Wikipedia page there, 6 All-Irelands. So yeah, I think he was somewhat involved in 2016. And yeah, looking at it there as well, obviously 2 All-Irelands at club level as well, and now he could win 3. So I mean, that would be an incredible achievement. And to be fair, has there ever been a player who's won an All-Ireland at senior level at both hurling and football with his club? I'm not like
with the club.
Not
off the top of my head, no.
Yeah,
not off the top of my head. I think you look at the super clubs for that. I mean, clubs that have been spectacularly dominant over a period of time in one of the sports, like Nemo Rangers, like Chemical Crokes. But no, doesn't really. Ballybowden, St. Enda's. Actually, yeah. Have Ballybowden won in the hurling? Because if so, then you're looking at Stephen Heine. You're looking at Shane Durkin. Need to check that.
Yeah, I don't know if Ballybowden have one in the hurling, to be honest with you, but
I don't think they have. I'm just double checking.
Yeah, but no, like
I know that they were very dominant in Dublin for long periods. So I'm just looking at the Wikipedia now. Yeah, nah. It's just Ballyhale. Yeah. Unfortunately not, but I think that probably, in my opinion, is your best shot at getting that.
Yeah, it's an interesting look. It's an L trivia question, an L quiz question, maybe.
Quiz question for future. Cuala obviously won both in Dublin there quite recently, and Bowden and Crokes won the double.
Yeah, Porrick says here, Jimmy Barry Murphy, not sure to be honest. He played for St. Finbarrs, are the only club that has won hurling and football. Cuala could be the second. So yeah, there you go. I mean, so that probably answers it. To be fair, look, we might as well start with the Cuala game because we're kind of speaking about it a little bit already. So it was Cuala 14 points, Coolera Strandhill 9 points. Overall, Cuala get the job done. They get the victory. They get the win. Not perfect overall, but in the end, they got the job done.
Yeah, they got the job done. And look, ever since they beat Chemical Crokes in that Dublin final, I think Con was speaking to TG Carter after, fluent interview Oscar. First time I've heard Con speak the Irish, and he's brilliant at it. Like a lot of those Cuala lads would have the Irish. But I think when you look at this game, Cuala did their heavy lifting in the first half, and when that was done, the ball was very, very firmly in their court. As I said, like Coolera had 71% of the ball in the first half to Coola's 29%. Yeah, Cuala still went in at halftime 6 points to 2 up. I don't really completely understand why Coolera were so slow and so cautious with what they were doing. And the problem was, Matthew pointed this out as well at the GA Sports Tracker app. Kevin, he pointed this out, and it's a brilliant thing to point out, that the longer you hold on to the ball, the less likely it is in most games now that you actually will score, because Cuala just dropped into their shell, and Coolera don't really have that many players. This is one of the points I was making in my preview. They don't have that many flair players. Do you get what I mean? Like, if Cuala have Niall O'Callaghan, Con O'Callaghan, Luke Keating, multiple players that can just drop the shoulder, take someone on, and create something. Whereas I look at Coolera and think they've 15 very, very, very solid players on that pitch who are fast, who are strong, but they don't have that flair to really take on a man. And when Cuala sat back, it became painfully obvious what Coolera were going to try to do. And that led to them having very poor shot selection and going in at halftime with 2 points to show for 71% of the ball in the first half. Whereas Cuala were turning Coolera over, breaking at fast enough pace. And you look at some of the scores that they picked up in the first half from Niall O'Callaghan especially, where it was just a kick pass directly into him, catches it on the chest, turns around, left foot over the bar. They got loads of scores like that, where it was just simple. Kick pass, catch, in like a good forward catches it, swings it up and over the bar. And it was no more complicated than that. And I think at halftime, I give John McPartland credit and I give Coolera credit, because they recognized at halftime, we need to make a big change here. And they went for Cuala in the second half. Like, there was part of me that thought, like, are they treating Cuala as if Cuala are these dominant All-Ireland champions that have been around the block? Like, Cuala are new kids on the block as well. And in the second half, they went for them. And all of a sudden, literally within 5 or 6 minutes, they hit 5 points. And most of the scores that they got were brilliant. Like, Doherty belted one over from a huge distance. Niall Murphy hit a gorgeous score. And all of a sudden, you're like, it's 10 points to 8. Cuala, from a position where they were 10 points to 3 up in the 40th minute, have now really let Coolera drag themselves back into this game. But ultimately, they did just leave themselves a little bit too much to do. And you always felt that Cuala would still get the ball to Niall O'Callaghan or get the ball to Con O'Callaghan at some point. They got it to Niall in the 52nd minute. Niall does that lovely swivel over the bar on the left foot. And that was a very important score. Like, you knew when you were watching, okay, that's just settled the nerves a little bit. That's just checked the momentum that Coolera had. Cuala are back 3 points ahead. And once they lengthened it out to 4, you knew it was a massive, massive ask to get another wind, because they'd got their second wind in the early part of the second half, obviously after the 40 minute, but to go again when you're 5 points down, very, very difficult. Look, Coolera have had an amazing season, but I just think Cuala had a little bit more flair in their team, a little bit more threats in their team, and they were the favourites for those reasons, and they did the tag justice in the end. Matthew called it to the T. Matthew said Cuala by 5 or 6, and they won by 5.
There you go. Yeah. Like, it was. I think I'd agree as well. Like, I think with Coolera, Strandhill, and I think with football in general, like, there is this buzzword in football that's become very prominent, and maybe it will kind of go away a little bit with the new rules coming in. But control, it's all about controlling the game. It's all about keeping the ball, slowing it down, taking the sting out of it, like all this crack. And sometimes there is a time and place to do that. I think maybe when you're leading in a game, or maybe when you physically, or like you kind of have to take this thing out of the game because the other team is, building up pressure. You think of the Dublin Mayo games down the years, the amount of times Dublin would just slow it down. But the start of a game in an All-Ireland club football semi-final, as you said before, Cuala, like, they treated it like as if they were playing Crokes, Kilmacud Crokes. You know what I mean? And I know Cuala, look, obviously they've you know, with the year they've had and everything else, they're the Dublin champions. Dublin teams have been, you know, Kilmacud Crokes have been very strong over the last couple of years. We saw other great Dublin teams as well. But yeah, there was probably an element of too much respect, maybe. They didn't like, and you saw, like, as soon as they started going for it, they started to make things happen. And maybe there was just an element of maybe a little bit too much respect, I think. I suppose as well, like, there is a lot of inexperience there as well with Coolera Strandhill, and we must like state, like, for them to have even gotten this far is an incredible achievement. Like, the fact we're even speaking about them in an All Ireland club football semi-final when the, you know, when we were all speaking about Porrick Pierces and everyone else, you know, the Galway champions, Corofin, and all this. But yeah, maybe an element of just too much respect shown by Coolera in that first half.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to consider. But like, because then you contrast it with Porrick Pierce's obviously coming out as the Roscommon champions, that local provincial rivalry. They, you know, they definitely wouldn't have had any fear towards Pierce's, and it showed on the day. I don't think that they were afraid of Cuala, because look, they did take the game to them and they did, you know, go at them in the second half. But I just think I don't know. I think they got lulled a little bit into that nonsense of just hanging on to the ball for the sake of it. It genuinely was like possession for the sake of it. Like, they, most of the time that they had the ball in the first half, they weren't really doing much with it. Like, it was hanging on to it, trying to wait for a Cuala defence, which has the likes of Mick Fitzsimons in it, Charlie McMorrow in it, to make mistakes. It's probably not going to happen. And that's why their shot selection was quite poor in the first half, because they were resorted then in the end to taking low percentage shots with Cuala defenders smothering the kick, or they would get turned over. And when Cuala did turn them over, they hit them fast on the break. And from that point on, the ball was just always in Coola's court. That even when Coolera went on that crazy run of hitting the 5 points in a row, Cuala were still 2 points ahead, which in a game that, you know, apart from that period had been moving at the pace that it was moving, 2 points still feels like a lot. Like, in that game, I know obviously it's only a goal and then you're ahead, but a goal in a game like that is very, very hard to come by. So even though Coolera were really good, I never felt like Cuala were going to lose. I always felt like Cuala were going to find a way to win. And I always felt like Cuala were going to check the momentum at some point, restore order, and get themselves over the line. But just on that, like you were mentioning there as well, about how some people were saying, oh, you know, we didn't need any of the rules, and the buzzword as well of controlling the game. Like, controlling the game, it's so what? You don't win a game by controlling it. You win the game by scoring more than your opponent. I don't know how that this is supposed to be groundbreaking information, but over the last decade, look, keep ball and, you know, game management, as it's often referred to as well, but just holding onto the ball and keeping possession for extended periods of time, that's probably always been a feature of Gaelic football. The time that I saw it get taken to the next level for the first time that I can remember seeing it and being like, wow, this is really obvious, is Dublin Mayo in 2017, when Dean Rock kicked the free over and then Dublin just held the ball until the full-time whistle. Like, I remember Niall Scully and Stephen Cluxton getting on the ball multiple times in that last passage of play, and they ran the clock out. But over the, you know, since that point in 2017, it's become such ever-present part of the game, and it's never really been entertaining, has it? I mean, especially, like, how many times have we seen an underdog score a goal or get a couple of points on the board, and then the favourites will just hold on to the ball until all the momentum is just sucked out of the underdogs, and then the game just goes back into its pattern. It's not entertaining, and when the new rules come in, I will be delighted to see possession football gone for good. The worst examples I've ever seen, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. Do you remember Dublin Roscommon 2023, where Roscommon clearly came with the game plan of, we're going to hang on to the ball as long as we can and stay in the game? Louth, I thought, did it as well in the Leinster final last year. Don't get me wrong, I need to preface it with, I have the utmost respect for how Louth went about their, you know, they had a game plan of how to win that Leinster final, and that was the way to do it. But it's not entertaining. Like, I didn't find the general play entertaining. It was entertaining in the sense of, yeah, they stuck with Dublin for longer than most people have expected them to. But in terms of like a traditional game of Gaelic football, it definitely wasn't that. So recapping on all that, I can't wait till the new rules come in and we just can wish this possession football goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting with the new rules. I think there is some things I'm still a little bit
It's not a
questioning.
magic wand, like
No, there's going to be. I mean, there's going to be teething problems, and I've watched a few challenge games. I think the Monaghan Kildare game was a game I watched, and I know people who were at that game, and it was hard for I feel sorry for some of the fans. I think when you're watching it on the TV, especially with commentary, you'll be able to understand a little bit more of the new rules and what's going on. But I think for some of the fans, I think a few people I've seen on Twitter were saying it was just a little bit confusing at times in regards to
the commentators.
Yeah, and look, probably for the commentators as well, because look, they're the ones who have to explain it to the fans. But hopefully, it's one of them things where for the first couple of rounds of the league, we're unsure, but the more that it goes on, the more we get familiar with it and the more we kind of get used to it. But I do think overall, as you said, to get one thing that has a lot of people will agree with is that the control and element of football and keeping the ball. We saw at times in the All-Ireland final as well, and that wasn't particularly great. But yeah, look, Cuala get the job done in fairness, and they do get the win and they progress on to the All-Ireland Club final. And the team they will be playing is the Tyrone champions, Errigal Ciaran 218, Dr. Crokes 118. I mean, this was a cracking game, to be fair, wasn't it? Both sides going at it, hell for leather. It was even. You felt like Crokes were going to win it in normal time. Then, as you said, Peter O'Macartan with that late point. Then in normal or in extra time, you're wondering what way is it going to go. Joe Goose obviously gets the goal in extra time that kind of pushes Errigal Ciaran away. But yeah, I mean, this was an absolute cracker of a match.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was genuine, like a proper game of football, wasn't it? Like, it was two very, very evenly matched teams. I mean, you play that game 10 times, Errigal win it 5 times, Crokes win it 5 times. They were very, very evenly matched. And like, the truth is that it's, again, to use another cliche, it's one of those games where both teams can walk out with their head held high, knowing that, you gave a good account to yourself. Like, Crokes were obviously caught up in, Matthew referenced this a lot as well, the slight disrespect that was shown quite across the board towards Munster club football. Like, Matthew said that there was this tweet going around that was like, predictions for who's going to be provincial champions, and then the Munster was irrelevant. So that definitely would have been somewhere in the minds of maybe not all the players, but definitely fans and everything like that. So I think a lot of people would have been paying attention to how Crokes got on in this game against a team that a lot of people are now tipping to win the All-Ireland in Errigal Ciaran. And look, they were fantastic. They were absolutely the equals of Errigal Ciaran. And as I said, you could play that game tomorrow again and Crokes would win it. The next day, Errigal would win it, and so on and so on. So yeah, where a game like this, where they're so evenly matched, it comes down to a hair's breadth, and it comes down to some key moments. And for me, the key moment, as obvious as it is, but the key moment was the Joe Goose goal. Like, the timing of it, to get that in extra time, like a goal in extra time always feels like it's more than 3 points. Like, it always feels like a huge boost to the team that got it, and a massive blow to the team that conceded it, because you are aware of just how long you've been playing for, and now you're guaranteed an extra time that you don't have that much time left on the clock to get that back. So when a Goose hit that in the net, it was absolutely advantage to Errigal Ciaran. And the fact as well, it was a sensational finish, like literally outside of the right boot into the top corner over that way. Like, how did he even have the guts to go for that? Unbelievable finish. And yeah, put Errigal Ciaran right into the driving seat of the match. And Crokes fought them right down to the bitter end. Obviously, Charlie Keating got that goal, pretty much in the last play. And then, they had the sideline, in what was the last play, and the ball was bouncing around, and you were thinking they're going to get another chance for a goal here. And I genuinely was watching thinking, I think they're going to get another goal here. Like, I really do. I can just see a break coming where Keaton will get his foot to it, or Big Mark O'Shea will get his foot to it, and all of a sudden we have penalties. And to be honest, that would have also been a fair way to decide this. Like, they're so evenly matched. But Errigal defended valiantly, and they crawl after an absolute battle into an All-Ireland final against Cuala.
Yeah, 1-13 between both of the Canavans. 1-6 from play for Darragh Canavan. I seen someone say that their mother must have been good at football. For them to be this good, taking the limelight away from you. Yeah. Which I did laugh at, to be fair, when I seen on Twitter.
There's just something in the blood though, like as well. Like the two of them, Peter Canavan, and then on the LGFA side, Maria Canavan is by far the best forward that Tyrone have there as well. Like, it's just literally like a guarantee.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like, and especially with the weight of expectation and everything else. But I did see, like, someone said that Darragh Canavan maybe pound for pound in 2024, when you look across inter-county football, club football, has been the best forward in 2024. If you're to kind of look at everything and look at the kind of whole sample size of club football and inter-county football, would you agree with that?
It's definitely something you could make a case for. Like, I think we're quite, I would say, vulnerable as GAA fans to recency bias on some level. And I'm not saying at all that Darragh shouldn't be considered for that. He absolutely should be. When you look at his form for Tyrone during the Allianz Leagues, he was incredible. You look at that Tyrone Monaghan game very early in the league, and what an amazing goal that was. He won as well the Sigerson Cup, which his dad had never done, and he won it with his brother. Like, again, a remarkable achievement from him. And then in the championship was a bit of a dud for Tyrone in terms of, like, we spoke to a few Tyrone fans after that, and after the Roscommon defeat, and they were saying, like, it was genuinely probably like the weirdest championship exit they've had in a long time. To lose like a preliminary quarterfinal away against Roscommon, like, it was just proper fell off the championship at nowhere. They were irrelevant in terms of the All-Ireland this season, in 2024. And to watch Armagh go on and win it, it's definitely not a year that they will remember fondly. But Canavan himself, Darragh, was, you couldn't fault him throughout any of the games. He always brought something to the table for Tyrone. And the scariest thing is like, what is he, 24? 25? Like, he has another level to go up on, in my opinion. When he hits 27, 28, 29, that's probably when he will be at his best. So terrifying things could be in this guy's future for anybody that comes up against him. And especially, I seen this as well on Twitter doing the rounds, that like seeing tweets being like, imagine when these lads are playing with the new rules and there is more space and they have to stay up there and there's just one man marker on them. God bless whoever has to do that, pick up Darragh Canavan. Because just even some of the scores that he got there at the weekend, like, there was one where he ran out to the wing and Gavin White was on him and he just checked back inside and pinged it over and like just turned Gavin White inside out. And I was like, that's Gavin White that he's just done that to. Like, Gavin, one of the best defenders in the country. And Rory Canavan kicked an astounding point as well, the one where he really drew it back in. And both of them, if they can hit the heights again in 2025, if they can both do what they're capable of, the championship is so open that you wouldn't dare write them off. And to answer your question ultimately about, do I think Darragh can be considered pound for pound best in terms of his consistency? Yeah. Like, have we had a competition where he's failed to deliver? I think you could probably, by that same metric, you could probably throw Con O'Callaghan in as well for consideration in terms of consistency across all competitions. Like, Con was brilliant in the league. He was very, very solid in the championship. I know Dublin fell off at the quarterfinals, but Con still scored quite a decent bit. And then for Cuala, he's been brilliant. So I think he probably should be considered too, but I don't think he's ahead of Darragh. So in that case, I guess yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose as you said there on Dr. Croaks, I mean, yeah, I seen that tweet from GEA Juggernaut, I think it was, who said I did kind of laugh at it at the time, to be fair, but I think it probably was a little bit disrespectful to old Munster football, in terms of Munster being irrelevant. I think it was basically putting out a tweet on all of the 4 provincial winners, and
Just a
then
bit of bait, isn't it?
and when it came to Munster, it just said irrelevant, which was definitely a bit of bait. There was no doubt about that, but yeah, I don't know, like Munster.
I don't understand why some people like take the
Fall
bait.
for it. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you see someone like that, fuck him. Like, who cares?
yeah.
If he's trying to throw out a bit of bait, like, because it's so easy to do.
It is.
You just throw out something that you know is going to rile people up, and look, that was something that I thought was 100% just disrespectful. Like we could all say that. I mean, the Leinster Championship has been like that at inter-county level for the last decade. Like, it's been pretty obvious every year that Dublin will win it, but you still pay it the respect as a competition to do a full preview and look at what are the chances that somebody could beat Dublin next season. And look, the reality is as well, the Leinster Championship still has provided some surprises. It hasn't gone 100% according to the script. I mean, if you were to go back to 2019 and say, in 5 years, Louth will push Dublin very close in a Leinster final.
Yeah.
Like, you would have been surprised by that. It's provided surprises in the other way. If you told me 5 years ago that Kildare would still be up to nothing, Meath would still be up to nothing, Kildare will get relegated to Division 3, losing every game in Division 2. I would have been surprised at that.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing. Like, I think in Leinster football, the gap. I think, look, Dublin are by far and away the top team in Leinster football, but I think between all the rest of them, you can make up that gap, and I think Louth have shown it. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of Laois and Wexford maybe do one or two things this year. Maybe Kildare will come back to will be. You'd expect a lot better because they couldn't have got much worse last year. But yeah, I think, like, getting back to that tweet though, with Mr. Juggernaut or however he likes to call himself. I'm pretty sure he is an Armagh man, so there probably is some sort of bitterness there to Kerry. Do you know what I mean? Even if they did beat Kerry this year. But yeah, like Munster club football in general, it probably I don't know why maybe it doesn't get, because, like, to be fair, like, I remember Cairns O'Rahilly's a couple of years ago as well, and they played, I think, Kilmacud Crokes in the club semi-finals, and they came very close to winning that game. And, like, Dr. Crokes this time around, like, they won the league, and they won both county championships in Kerry, and then they won Munster as well. So, like, I mean,
this year was different in that regard, man, because what you were saying about Cairns was Cairns lost 3 times in the
other championship, wasn't it?
The county football championship. They had won the club championship, but by far and away in the county championship, they were shown to be not the best club team in Kerry. That year, it was Dingle. Dingle were the best team, and, like, for anybody who's watching, like, if anybody disagrees with that, please say, had Dingle lost heavily to someone. But as far as I remember that year being strongly convinced Dingle were the best team, club team in Kerry, and they came very close, Dingle, actually, to beating East Kerry in that county championship, which then would have made them go on as the representative for Kerry. But to see a Cairns team that had been beaten 3 times go out into the Munster championship, and then they won it in a bit of a baffling sequence of events where I really fancied Finbars to win Cork and then win Munster. Then they lost to Nemo Rangers, and I was thinking, Nemo have a few good players, I'll probably go with them. Then Nemo lost to Clonmel Commercials, and I was thinking, okay, I'll go with Clonmel Commercials. I started looking, okay, they've Michael Quinlivan, they've Kevin Fahey, okay, we'll go with these. Then they lost to, I think, Errigal Ciaran, and I was thinking, Errigal Ciaran, will I back these? Then they lost to Newcastle West, I think it was, and Newcastle West ended up in the final against Cairns. So Cairns got there, won Munster, fair and square, but going into that semi-final against Kilmacud, I remember thinking at the time that it just it didn't feel like they were the undisputed best in Kerry, if you know what I mean. Whereas Kilmacud had proved that they were the undisputed best in Dublin, and Glen had proved that they were the undisputed best in Derry, etc.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Errigal Ciaran, though, I mean, like them against Cuala, like just we won't discuss the final obviously in too much detail. But I suppose it poses to be an absolute cracker of a game, obviously between Ciaran and Cuala. This coming Sunday. You're looking at the likes of Darragh Canavan, the midfield battle as well, which I think is going to be very interesting. I mean, it's going to be a cracking final.
It's going to be unbelievable, man. And like both teams actually do have a lot of cornerstones that are quite similar to each other, not just in their teams, but in how their year has gone. Both of them have a very, very experienced defender at the heart of their defence. Aidan McCrory for Errigal and Mick Fitzsimons for Cuala. Both of them have absolutely raiding halfbacks that like to drive forward all the time. You've got David O'Dowd and obviously Charlie McMorrow on the Cuala side. And then you've got Peter Og McCartan on the Errigal Ciaran side. The midfield is very similar as well. You got Ben McDonnell and Joe Goose on the Errigal Ciaran side, who again have absolutely raided forward time and time again. And Cuala, Padraig O'Coffey Byrne probably sits a bit deeper, but Peter Duffy bombs forward lots throughout this club championship. And then both teams have a certain pair of brothers up in their forward line who do most of the damage. The Canavans on the Errigal Ciaran side and the O'Callaghan's on the Cuala side. So the narrative writes itself. Two very similar teams. And then in terms of their journeys, again, it's been a season for both of these teams of smashing the glass ceiling. Like Cuala winning their first Dublin championship, winning their first Leinster championship, and they're on the doorstep of potentially winning their first ever All-Ireland club football championship, which would be an incredible achievement to match it up with the hurling ones that they've won. Errigal Ciaran, again, getting out of Tyrone, reclaiming that title, and then winning their first Ulster title since 2002. And if they can get over the line to win their first ever All-Ireland club championship, it's just remarkable. So history to be made either way. Too close to call right now. I think I might take a few days to think about it.
No, you can't do that now. You have to give us something here now. I'm not letting you away that easy.
You see, as a Dublin fan, I'd love to see Michael Fitzsimons win one.
Yeah,
because I do think, you see, here's again a bit of a cautionary tale for Cuala. You have to take the chances right in front of you, because this is Mick Fitzsimons' last chance to win one. And I'd be very confident in saying that, because what lots of people forget is in 2013, exactly the same time that we're obviously, about to go into this final in 2025. But in 2013, Ballymun Kickham's played against St. Bridget's in that All-Ireland final. And Ballymun Kickham's had, a team that was decked out with a very young James McCarthy. Like James, I think it's at the time was 21. John Small was still a Dublin minor that year. He'd only just got out of the minors. Philly McMahon, again, was early 20s. Dean Rock, the same. They had players like Davy Byrne, Alan Hubbard, and they had an incredible run, getting out of the Dublin Championship, winning the Leinster Championship, getting to the All-Ireland final against St. Bridget's, and Bridget's beat them in a crazy finish to that game with Frankie Dolan hitting the winner. And if you look back at that game on YouTube now, which you can do, it's like the full game is up, and it's a really good game to look back on. The commentary at the time is saying, well, no doubt Ballymun will have another chance at this. They'll be back. They never got back. And it took them 7 years to win another Dublin championship when they won it in 2020. And obviously that was the year that the pandemic ruled out any provincial or All-Ireland club championship from happening. And I think that is a big what if for Ballymun. It's a big what if for all the clubs, obviously, that year who won their county championships. But Ballymun were really good that year, and I think they were at the best that I've seen them. But to round this back to Cuala and bring up the point of what I'm saying is the Dublin Club Championship is damn hard to get out of. And, you know, we've seen quality sides like Ballyboden in 2019. When they won it, they looked imperious, and they haven't won it since. Ballymun-Kickham's again in 2020 looked undoubtedly the best team in Dublin. Then again, they haven't got close to winning it since. So the mantle passes very quickly. Vincent's imperious in the 2010s, relegated in 2020. Like, it can fall fast. So for Cuala, this opportunity is in front of them. They have to grab it. But if I'm putting money down, and if I'm putting my absolute stamp on who I think is going to win, I think Errigal Ciaran will win. I think that the test that Errigal Ciaran were hit with in the semi-final, like by Crokes, was tougher than the test that Cuala were hit with by Coolera Strandhill on their side. With all due respect, I think that, you know, Crokes taking Errigal Ciaran to extra time, pushing it right down to a Hail Mary last ball into the box where Hearts were in the mouths. Like, Errigal really, as I said earlier, they crawled over the finish line with nothing left in the tank. And look, that might be, you know, a benefit for Cuala because, you know, they're a little bit fresher, they're a little bit maybe more in the tank. But I look at it, and me and Matthew pointed this out as being the reason for why we thought Errigal would beat Crokes in the first place is throughout this club championship, they've had to go to the well time and time again. We've seen them go to the well in the Tyrone Championship when Peter Hart landed that monster point to win that game. We've seen them go to the well against Unans when they dug out a winner. We've seen them do the exact same thing against Clonairin. We've seen Peter O'McCartan's winner against Kilcoo. They have serious traits of just finding a winner, digging it out when it all comes down to the wire. And they did the same thing against Dr. Crokes in that All-Ireland semi-final. So I think this game, again, will go down a similar path, that it will be to the wire. And I just think Errigal Ciaran have made such a habit of finding winners that I think they might find just one more.
Yeah, I think so. I think you could argue as well, in many ways, that Errigal Ciaran have had, you know, the tougher opponents. They have had the tougher games. There's no question about that. And even in the semi-finals as well, you know, you could argue Dr. Crokes probably, look, I don't want to take anything away from Coolera Strandhill and what they've achieved, but you probably would have Crokes as the slightly better side than Coolera Strandhill. I would agree as well, like I said on one of my own videos a couple of days ago, in terms of predicting the entirety of 2025. Predicted Errigal Ciaran to win the All-Ireland, and I think I would stick with that, to be honest with you. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see Cuala do it. As Patrick says here, huge day for the Dublin clubs because they're in hurling and football finals. And yeah, look, it would be a phenomenal day for the county if Na Fianna were to win their first ever All-Ireland in hurling, and Cuala were to win their first ever All-Ireland in football. So it'll be an extraordinary achievement for both clubs if they were to go and pull it off.
The only thing when you're talking about the harder games that I have to bring back in, because obviously, I mean, there's obviously weekend previews and official predictions coming for both of us, but is that every time that I have, you know, looked at who a team has beaten and thought, that's my team.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel, was this
so
week, this
convinced
weekend,
by Paul
this
Pearce.
weekend was like the first weekend where I feel like the two favourites won. And like Errigal Ciaran as well. Like, do you know what I mean? They could have, you know, you think of that chance at the end, they just about, you know, got into extra time.
That's right. I mean, that's a crazy thing to even say, but like it's true. It's the first weekend that there wasn't a result that made you be like, what the, like, do you know what I mean? It's the first weekend that one didn't jump off the page at you where you were like, wow. Like, I was so sold on Pearce's. So sold on them. Like, especially after seeing them beat Bridget's and put Curve into the sword the way that they did. And Coolera, who had come through Ballina, yes, but I wouldn't put Ballina on the same level as Curfin or Bridget's. And Coolera beat Pearce's. And again, I was like, what? And the way that they beat them as well, it was no fluke. Like, they were deserving winners. And again, you know, you think, oh, Glen beats Loughneel here. You know, Waddy Grange Glen are going to go on another run. And then they lose the final to Sean O'Leary, Newbridge. It was just like so many results this year that made me genuinely like jaw drop. I was like, what? How did they beat Loughneel and then not win the Derry Championship? Like, they beat the toughest opponents that everybody says is the toughest opponents. And then they lose in the final. crazy. But it was just a crazy year, and I don't think the craziness is done yet. I think these club finals, not for the faint-hearted, I'm expecting.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, look, that is the brilliance of the club championships, and like absolutely buzzing for both of the finals. And Patrick says here, both of you will be happy if Dublin win both finals. Yeah, absolutely, we will be 100%. And be great to see both teams get over the line. But look, at the same time, I would be happy for Errigal Ciaran and Sarsfields respectively as well if they were to both go and get the job done. Like, I mean, both of us aren't Nafina or Cuala club men. You know, they're not our clubs necessarily. So, I mean, look, we would still be happy to see the other teams come true. But I think it would just be nice for Dublin if, you know, some people will say, oh, well, Dublin have had plenty of success down the years. We certainly have. But look, at the same time, it'd be great to see it. So yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could. There'll be plenty more videos to come. There'll be a preview out, I'm sure, for the big games this weekend. We'll be dropping a predictions video for the National Football League as well. Next weekend, going to be doing it live on Saturday, so make sure to tune in for that. So yeah, it's that time again when the league is creeping up in both football and hurling. So there we go. Cheers to both Patrick and Pádraig who commented, and until the next one, we'll speak to you all again soon.